Good morning, everyone. I'm going to take some time to review our strategy plan for 2019, just give you a brief overview and invite you to participate. So I'm going to go over some slides, talk through them a little bit. This slideshow goes with an email that I'm sending out also. You'll have access to these slides, and we look forward to your support and participation. With that in mind, sorry, just going to get my slides up here. Alrighty. So let's run through these real quick. This looks like a big, colorful, pretty picture, but it's hopefully a little bit more meaningful than that, and it will become more meaningful as you get to be a little bit more familiar with it. This represents the 6 main areas, and you might even say 7 main areas that we'll be focusing on throughout 2019. And I'm going to go through each one of these one at a time. This is another slide that's a good brief overview that once I get through all the other slides, you might consider printing this one, keeping it close by you, reviewing it. That's even a more concise overview of each of these 6 areas. So the background, I'm just going to flash back to this. The background, this whole gray area, you'll see is mission and values. And as we've talked about, and hopefully you're familiar with, is our mission and values are the driving force, and they also establish for our organization ethical and moral boundaries. And they define our culture, who we want to be, what's the environment like, how do we want our office to feel. They provide context for the rest of our strategic plan, and each committee that you'll get familiar with should refer back to our mission and values with frequency, and make sure that the projects and the decisions that we're making align with that mission and those values. So the first committee is our leadership committee, and this is our leadership team. That's myself, Dean, Ashley, Dr. Loki, and Laura, who make up our leadership team. The extension of our leadership team and committee will be our supervisors who will participate on this as well. The projects that we're working on currently is we're kind of stepping back and redefining what good leadership is. How can we make changes as a bunch of leaders in this organization if we don't actually have a definition of what good leadership is? So we're kind of going back to the drawing board on that. And then Baldrige implementation and oversight, that's what this is. This framework that we're discussing here, this whole thing, this is the Baldrige framework. And so our leadership team is putting a lot of energy and effort into this implementation, our modified strategy. And we're even considering reevaluating our managerial structure at some point. But these are our 2 projects on the list right now. So because this committee has already been established, there's no invitation necessarily from frontline staff to participate on this one. But there's 5 other committees we do hope you consider. So the next one I'll talk about briefly is strategy. This is, we oftentimes think of this in context of new projects, external growth that we're considering, or even in some cases, new services that we're considering offering. And all these things in our current projects list are things that are being worked on in one form or another. This is a really exciting committee that you could consider participating on. There will more than likely be a number of subcommittees, and the more participants we have, the more we'll be able to get accomplished throughout the year. So if any of these things look of interest to you, or you want to know how they might impact Cedar Point Health, or maybe even your current role, you might consider participating in this. These are other things that we've discussed at our annual owners meeting that might be interesting for us to consider in the near future, projects to consider down the road. So that's strategy. The next one is customers. We typically think of our customers as our patients, and that's primarily true, but we do have other people who are customers, and that's our vendors, that's our consultants, that's our specialists and other referral sources, that's our hospitals, that's a lot of people that we interact with and other stakeholders in our communities. Current projects is looking at our charitable presence. We're looking at developing a more comprehensive patient experience plan, creating a plan for external peer-to-peer clinician engagement, and development relationship with residency programs. There's another number of other things that might be considered in the near future, such as this idea of a patient advisory board. This is where we'd invite a group of our patients to get together in a room with us and consider projects, consider things that we do well and how we can emphasize this more, consider things that from their perspective we could do better, and hearing our customers and our patients. You see the other projects here, but customers are obviously a critical and key component to our strategy, and the projects that we consider and implement will be key to our success. So consider participating on our customer committee. One thing I failed to mention, and I'm going to go back and mention those briefly, is who's the chair of each of these committees, or who's the champion. I'm the champion of our leadership committee. Dean's oversees strategy, and Ashley oversees customers. Workforce then is the next one. Ashley also oversees workforce in her HR role. This is a critical component to our strategy plan. We want to improve as an employer ongoing. We want to be true to our value to try and be the employer of choice in our communities. And there's a lot that we need to improve on and to accomplish as an organization, and we want your support and participation in this committee to help us do it. You can see the list of current projects. Some of them are a little bit generic in their description here, but we actually wanted to get into nitty-gritty details about how to improve employee loyalty and morale, for example. How do we create some educational opportunities for our staff? And actually creating plans around this. So this is another really exciting committee that we'd like your participation on. Operations. So operations is what we kind of consider some of the internal workflows or processes, or how to make us function better as a system and not a number of separate sites. We want to function more as a system organization that works together, that we all know how it works really well. So things that are currently being worked on is pain management. Sorry, hit the wrong button. But pain management is something that's being worked on currently. Also looking for opportunities to improve provider efficiency. That's kind of on both sides. It could have easily been just exclusively on current projects. As you know, we've been working on with our call center, improving our phone call process, and we've made significant strides there. And we need to evaluate that ongoing. And then we're considering how we can continue to advance our care management program. And you'll see some other workflow possibilities on this side. But again, I would highlight that we're really working on how to improve provider efficiency in our offices. And that's multifactorial. That's not just our providers. Our staff plays obviously a key role in how effective and how efficient our providers can be. So again, we need your participation and help, your thoughts, your guidance, your suggestions. And there will be a lot of opportunities to pilot different suggestions that this committee can create. So there's a lot of really exciting things coming out of here. Operations is another committee that's overseen by Dean. Finally is results. We want to be a results-focused organization. And that means each one of the committees that we've gone through, or I've reviewed just now, and that's on our strategy, we want measurable goals that are tracked and that we're tracking towards, and that we can measure and report back to each other as an organization every month, or maybe even more often than that. And so Laura, I'm overseeing results, but Laura's going to work closely with me as we develop a scorecard of feedback and mechanisms and a communication plan for all staff to get the results, the progress, the improvements that are being made out to the entire organization, so that we're all in the loop. We all know what's going on, and we all are in line with a similar set of goals. So really important committee. If you like data and progress and goal setting, you might consider helping us with the results committee. So in the middle, I'll go back to this big picture, this integration. You can see that right here in the middle of this. And this is just to suggest that we won't be successful as an organization if these committees don't work together. There's some obvious overlap between these committees and projects that affect one another, and we'll have to work collaboratively on those projects. And so this is why we have our leadership team serving on all these committees. We should be able to get back together in our leadership committee, update each other on the progress that each of these committees are making, and consider how we could be duplicating work or overlapping, prevent that from occurring, leverage each of the focuses of these committees, work collaboratively. That's the concept of integration. This isn't a committee, but more of just a concept that we look to embrace as we work on these different committees. We don't want to become siloed in each of our committees. So that's the 6 different areas with our mission and value serving as the backdrop. And this is a really exciting step for our organization. And if it's not clear, I'm just going to briefly review what the goal is here. The goal is that we get each team member to consider participation on these committees. We want you to consider which committee you have a special passion and interest for, the types of projects that you might be able to support, and give your feedback and ideas to. You don't need to be any kind of expert. We're not looking for expertise. We think that you're expert enough just from being a part of our organization because of your job and your role and the value that you bring. We want you to support a committee. And so we want you to consider how you can participate and what your passions are. We don't want you to consider participating on multiple committees and overextend yourself. If for some special reason you want us to consider that, we'll be open to that. But otherwise, we really just want you to consider a single committee that you could provide some input to. So each one of our committees will probably have around 6 to 10 participants. Again, subcommittees may form on our committees. And that's to maybe focus on a very specific project for a certain amount of time. Maybe for several months, the strategy committee has identified a very specific project, and there might be a subcommittee that's formed, for example. But each one of the committees will have 6 to 10 participants, potentially more. There may be need for more. The goal will be the goal will be to meet monthly and to probably participate in additional communication between meetings via email or Greenway messaging, or maybe even text messaging, depending on what your committee decides. We want you to try and attend as much as you are able, but this needs to be worked out with your supervisor. Obviously, you have a primary role that's important in our organization, and we want to try and make arrangements so that you can attend each time, but it might not be possible. You might have a coworker who's on vacation or sick, and you leaving your normal role and spot might not be possible to participate. Obviously, with our offices spread out, attendance in person might not be possible each time, and so a broadcast, a hangout, a phone call, those all might be possibilities in order to make your participation possible. But we want you to have a voice. We don't want you to just sit back and listen, but we want you to be an active participant, have a voice, make suggestions, and help us shape the projects for this coming year. I've emphasized this a number of times, but I'll emphasize it again. Pick an area that's of interest to you. We don't want you to be reluctant and dragging your feet each time you consider attending a meeting. We hope that it's exciting for you, that you get help in some bigger, more broad projects. But pick a committee that seems like it has projects that are going to excite and entice you. The last thing I'll just mention, which will probably be discussed more at the committee level, is that we just ask that you consider that you may be exposed to information that we would consider confidential. Confidential from the perspective that we might not share it with the general public. We probably won't share it with our friends and neighbors. You may be involved in projects that will positively affect our community, but it may be too early to share it. And so timing may be important on some of the information that you become privy to. Again, it'll be talked more about in your committee, and maybe at times it'll be emphasized depending on what information is shared and the data that you have access to, but something just to consider. Here are the initial meeting dates for each of our committees. Our leadership team, as you know, I've suggested that's our leadership, our immediate leadership team, and our supervisors, and we have established meeting times already. The strategy, customers, workforce, and operations committees will meet on these dates and times. So strategy is always on the second Thursday, customers on the third Tuesday, workforce on the second Wednesday, operations on the third Thursday, and results on the second Tuesday. We're going to try and keep these as concise meetings at lunch that start and end on time. That is something that I've emphasized with our leadership team as they are champion of these different committees, that we make sure that we're committed to starting and stopping on time. And so our next meeting dates following the suggested second, third, Thursdays, Wednesdays, Tuesdays, these are the dates that they will fall on. Again, you'll have access to these slides. This information may be somewhat regurgitated in the email to you. Again, this is really exciting. We're ecstatic for your participation. We're optimistic at the plan that we've put together. You can even see in the background that this has all been stuff that we've been working on my whiteboard for some time. We've been thinking about this for several months, and we were excited at the results of our annual owners meeting and the support that we have of our owners to proceed with these committees and seeking your participation. So again, look forward to seeing you participate. As the email suggests, you're going to speak with your supervisors about your desire to participate on a particular committee, and you're going to reach out to Laura via email or a Greenway message about which committee you'd like to participate and sit on. We're excited. We want you to participate. We want you to have a voice here at Cedar Point beyond just your job. There's a lot of exciting things happening, a lot of exciting projects that are already in progress and exciting new projects that we're looking to kick off. And so with that, I hope you have a wonderful Tuesday. We'll be in touch with you shortly and excited to see these committees take shape. Good luck. Talk to you later.